San Diego State active in the portal, adding Nick Boyd. There's nobody better, by the way, than John in terms of covering college hoops.
Just in general.
In general. One of one, John Fanta. Great to have you back with us. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. First of all, what do you think of the Nick Boyd addition?
Well, I think that Nick Boyd is a strong addition for San Diego State. First and foremost, the storyline here is fascinating. I mean, he is on the wrong end of the Lamont Butler buzzer beater game winner that lives on in college basketball history forever. And I remember getting a front row seat to that shot. And in the video, you just see Nick turn around and he sees the jubilation of San Diego State. And you can't tell me that human nature doesn't cause people to think about things, think about their pathway. And maybe it's meant to be. And Nick is a person who's very into faith. I've gotten to know him actually pretty well. He is related to Fred Hill, a longtime college basketball coach and a guy who was with the New Jersey school, Seton Hall, Rutgers stints, really good guy. And Fred told me about Nick when he was just coming into college, how hard of a worker he is, the kind of scorer that he can be. He is going to fit what San Diego State is about. And this is the ultimate compliment to the program he comes from, what Dusty May built at FAU. Because if you're going to play at Florida Atlantic the last 2 years, or if you're going to play at San Diego State, you've got to be a junkyard dog. You have to be tough. You have to be willing to guard. You have to embrace your role on a team. Nick was not the main dude on FAU. He wasn't the second best player on FAU. But he sacrificed certain things to be a team guy. I think that he had, this past year, he battled some injuries. It wasn't as much of a Hollywood script as the year previous, but he really set the tone. He set the tone in that locker room. He set the tone in that locker room and made people around him better. And I think what Brian Dutcher sees is a guy who's going to guard and a guy who can do a lot of things for the culture of a team. Not a premier scorer, but a guy who can get and string together 2-3 baskets at a time. More than anything, a guy in Nick Boyd who has seen all the highs and lows of college basketball on the biggest of stages. So it's a quality guard pickup in the portal.
The portal, NIL, just your whole thoughts on how it has changed the landscape of college basketball, because, you know, right when the season ends, it's who's going to be in the transfer portal, or even before the season ends, because when these teams, you know, their seasons are over, it's boom, guys are in the transfer portal right away.
Jim, it would be an understatement to call this the Wild Wild West. An understatement. This is utter chaos. I don't know if there's a SpongeBob fan out there or if you have any experience watching the show, but there's a show where he basically removes everything from his brain and then somebody asks him for his name and they go inside his brain and it's just people running around with his brain on fire. That's transfer portal in college basketball. You've probably seen the GIF.
Yes.
If you haven't, you can check it out with this very description. Guys, I cover the sport. I love the sport. We who do our jobs are also fans. But right now, what this is, if you want to be following it accurately, it is a phone refresh 24/7, 365. I guarantee as we're doing this interview, someone is committed to a school. It just is how it is. You would have to be, I'm married. If I followed it every minute, I think there might be divorce papers filed. That's how chaotic it is. It's not work. It's like it's consuming. And I talked to a coach earlier today who's like, I'm doing my job. I love my job. I love my kids. But right now I got 4 kids on my team. That's it. I got to find 9 others, and every hour it changes how much money they want, and every hour it changes what circumstances they want and what they want to do and how the money's going to get deposited. This is pay for play. It is professional sports. It is going to have massive ripple effects on college athletics. I don't think within football and basketball, the structure of those sports are going to change that much from the chaos that we have now, other than maybe some regulation. Maybe you say you can go from one school to the other, but you can't be transferred 2, 3, 4 times if you're signing a contract. But what I would say is I don't know how an athletic department at even like the medium power conference level. So you're probably asking, what do I mean by that? I'm saying San Diego State would fall into this mix, but I'm even saying like a Northwestern, right? I'm even saying like a Vanderbilt or even like a Texas Tech or an Iowa State or an Iowa. I know some of these schools are big time schools, but they're not Georgia, Alabama in football, or Duke, Kentucky in basketball. Those departments are having trouble doing the job right now of managing their rosters, managing their kids, getting waivers, managing the NIL. The very structure of college sports, Jim, is getting shaken. But the people who are in charge of overseeing the shaking don't want to do anything to really change it. So you have this massive divide that eventually is going to break, and you're going to have there's going to be no such thing as the NCAA anymore. And who will that affect? Football and basketball will be fine. Why? They make money, and they get television dollars. I just worry about, as a college sports guy, I appreciate college baseball, college soccer, college field hockey, college volleyball, college track and field. I don't know how those things exist in 10 years.
It's great perspective. It's well said. Who knows what the future really looks like? I mean, whether it is football, men's basketball, or Olympic sports in college athletics. We've got the great John Fanta with us right now, San Diego Sports 760, John and Jim. I found it interesting. There was a conversation Tom Izzo of Michigan State had on the radio, and he mentioned the fact that one of his former players who started 26 games for him last year, Mady Sissoko, not only is in the portal, but is visiting San Diego State. He mentioned 2 or 3 other schools as well. Reportedly, Sissoko, I believe, is visiting the Mesa this week. What type of fit would he be? I mean, 2 years ago, San Diego State had the ultimate rim protector in Nathan Mensah. This past year, they had the ultimate scorer out of a forward or center in the undersized, quote-unquote, for a center, Jaden Ledee, but he was an All-American. Where would Sissoko potentially fit, or what type of fit would he be for the Aztecs?
Well, he'd be a decent fit. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's the end-all, be-all answer to the problems for the Aztecs. At the end of the day, Mady Sissoko averaged 3 points and 5 rebounds per game, playing 15 minutes per contest this past year. And guys, there was an open door at Michigan State for anybody with a pulse, if they were a decent post player, to play at the 5. And he had multiple chances from Tom Izzo. It did not work out. Could a change of scenery, could the sunshine and warmth of San Diego over the cold winters of East Lansing produce some change in the kid? Of course. Of course. He is not going to score the basketball. He doesn't have back-to-the-basket moves. He's not a shooter. But it would be a fine get by Brian Dutcher because Sissoko knows what toughness looks like, and he knows how to defend, and he knows physicality. If he ends up at San Diego State, that's certainly a fine get for Brian Dutcher. It's not an unbelievable get and an answer to all problems. I think what you're looking at here with San Diego State, at least when I look at them, is a team that right now looks to be more guard-oriented just based on the personnel that they have. Now, they need to pick up a post player. You're in a situation, right, with Elijah Saunders and what he could be able to bring to the table heading into next season. But I do think you're looking at a team that's in a place where a Sissoko is a body. He's a Big Ten body, and he's physical. He's not going to be the solver of all of your problems, but he could play 20 to 25 minutes per game and hold his own, and he's got 5 fouls.
John, what did you make of San Diego State's runs in the tournament the last 2 years? We had Brian Dutcher on a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned, last 2 years we were 7 in UConn because the only 2 teams that they've lost to in the last 2 years have been UConn, the eventual national champions, and making back-to-back Sweet 16s, first time in school history, and then obviously the national championship game a couple of years ago. You've been very passionate about Brian Dutcher and this program, but to now really have that stamped in everybody's minds that this is a perennial college basketball program. Just thoughts in the last 2 years for San Diego State.
It's remarkable. What Brian Dutcher has done is one of the best coaching jobs in America. He has made them a perennial contender that can go deep into March. He's made them one of the hardest playing teams in the sport. I just think that what they have become is a program and team rooted in toughness. 11 in Ken Pom defense this season, right? You look to last year, what they were able to become, a team that was fourth in the country in defensive efficiency. They're always going to be that type of team that just grinds you down and makes your life hell for 40 minutes. They're going to stick you in the blender, and it is the anti-San Diego experience. It is the opposite of sunshine and the beach. It is really just torturous to have to play them. Nobody looks forward to playing San Diego State, and rightfully so. I think beyond just what Dutch has done with his teams in establishing an identity, like now there's a player example, if not multiple examples, of the players that they've developed. Jaden Ledee is as great of a case as any for this coaching staff to sell to any person that's even thinking about playing at San Diego State, to say, look what we did with this kid. We helped him get to be a first-team All-American. Lamont Butler, Micah Parrish, the players that they became. Darian Trammell, he transfers from Seattle and comes to San Diego State and understands what winning looks like and gets better. Their ability to make players better cannot be overstated. At the same time, the way that they have developed a DNA that is rooted in absolute toughness. It's a non-negotiable. If you're going to play at San Diego State, has been ultra impressive. And it's why even in the Mountain West, which was deep as all get out this past year with the 6 teams making the NCAA tournament, San Diego State laid the foundation for that to happen. They changed the axis of a league. They changed how people think about West Coast basketball, and they continue to do it, establishing themselves as one of the sport's powers. They are right there with Gonzaga as the premier programs out west.
Really well said. One more for you, John, before you go, and we appreciate the time as always. I mean, if you fast forward, and like you said, you have to refresh your phone every 20 minutes to really know what rosters are going to look like, and things are going to change. But if we get to a point where Reese Waters returns, Lamont Butler, who's testing NBA waters, returns for a 5th year. You look at the Elijah Saunders and the Miles Birds and the growth they had. You just look at the entirety of what they've been able to do, complementing it with Nick Boyd. We'll see what other additions they make here in the portal. How would you feel about San Diego State's roster if you can run it back, so to speak, if you get a Butler back, if you get a Waters back and you complement those pieces in the portal?
Yeah, I think Lamont Butler, Nick Boyd, Reese Waters can make up a really capable, good backcourt, good perimeter in the Mountain West. We'll see what Miles Bird is able to do next season and what he can do in this offseason, how he can develop heading into next year. Can he really take off for this Aztecs program? But I think that they're a team that will be an NCAA tournament team. I think that they're probably closer to the 8-9 line if I were to look at them than like the 2-3 line. But that's nothing to scoff about. And I think for them, the happy zone is, can you get a 5 or a 6 seed? Can you find a pathway there? Can you do enough in your non-conference? Which the other thing is they've become a non-conference destination type of team, meaning multi-team events are going to ask for them more. And if I'm a power conference team, there's no harm in playing San Diego State. There's game. So for them, they're going to have a good non-conference schedule. They're going to be in a very good league that keeps getting better. And I think they've got enough experience to be a team that should compete near the top of the Mountain West. And I'd say is a top 35 or so team with things being dependent on what kind of a leap can Elijah Saunders take And can we continue to see growth out of Miles Burton? If those things happen and you get Butler and Waters back and Waters can settle into his role more and be more aggressive, then San Diego State's going to be a tough out again because, again, John and Jim, what it comes down to is, when you walk in there for your first workout of the spring or summer or your first workout of the fall, they know who they are. So many programs do not.
John, we love your perspective, man. Nobody does college basketball better 365 days a year than John Fanta at Fox Sports. We appreciate you hopping on in San Diego. Have a good spring, my friend. We'll do it again at some point, hopefully this summer.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure to join you.
Find something you love as much as John Fanta loves college basketball. For me, it's bracketology.
Oh, I thought you were